I get fascinated every time I get to connect and hear information like this over and over again because it takes me back to when I had no idea all of this existed. All right. So I don't know if you're as fascinated as I am, but it's really a privilege and an honor to be here. So I'm going to share my screen and take you through a couple of things. Let me put this out, make sure that this comes up. All right. So I'm originally from Cameroon. All right. And I came here with big dreams just like everyone else. But prior to immigrating to the United States, a couple of things happened. Right after primary school, right after secondary school, I traveled to Ghana to study marine engine mechanics. And I studied at one of the best universities in Africa at the time, Regional Maritime University, where I got a bachelor's in marine engine mechanics, of course. But the plan was to come back home and work for the largest ships, right? Work at sea and do all these fancy things. So I did come back after studies. And that is me in the economic capital of Cameroon after dropping my CV all over the state in multiple companies with no call, no hopes. Everything was lost. Every time I spent in Ghana was almost lost, if I can put it that way. All right. So my brothers and my parents came together and said, you know what? You're going to be frustrated in Cameroon. So how about we send you to Dubai? So I got to Dubai with a bachelor's in marine engine mechanics, but I had to end up working at Starbucks as a barista. And I did that for 2 years. Then God being so good, I moved to the US, right? I came to the US as a student back in 2016. And I did everything possible under the sun, right? With the big dreams I had, I drove for Uber, Lyft, Amazon, you name it. I worked in factories. And then someone told me that if you want to earn more money, study IT. That's the only reason I went into IT, because someone told me you can make more money doing that. So I studied database administration. And guess what happens when you change careers? Your circle changes, all right? So of course, everyone before that I hung out with was making $13, $17. But when I moved into IT, my circle changed. So here was my new circle with people just like me doing IT. I was database administrator. I was an instructor teaching other people to become database administrators because I've always believed in shared information. Someone rightly said, individual success in the midst of collective failure is failure. So I've always believed in transferring information. If you know something that can help a brother or sister or anyone, transfer it to them and let them decide if it works for them or not. All right. That was not all. I worked in the IT space for a couple of years, but a lot was not changing in terms of the freedom I thought I was going to get when I started making multiple six figures. All right. The years went by. I went from one job to 2 jobs to 3 IT full-time jobs. So I was making the money, but I was still broke. I was still kind of living paycheck to paycheck because I had not figured out what was missing. Then I was watching a YouTube video once and someone mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read the book and it talked about investing in assets. So I started buying real estate in 2019. But in 2021, my life changed completely because someone invited me to a Zoom call like this one and I joined. And for the first time, I learned about money. You see, everything Doc has been showing us so far, I sat down and for the first time I understood income, lifestyle, savings. Because guess what? Before, yes, I had the income, but my lifestyle was growing so fast I could barely keep control. That is why I had zero savings. Or I was not putting my money to use, so to speak. And I learned so much. That day changed my perspective on life, right? Because I understood that what we know or what we are taught to do anyways, follow everyone else. And what does everyone do? Go to school, go get degrees, go get PhDs, and then go get a job. And if one job is not enough, get a second one or get a third one. And I was climbing that ladder, doing everything possible. But when I joined that call, a couple of things changed. I started looking at the most successful people in my community, right? And I started Googling who are the most successful people. I noticed one thing. They're all entrepreneurs. They're all business-minded people, right? They offer more value to the community. So if you're thinking of earning more, you gotta be asked, the right question should be what value am I bringing? Because what you're earning right now is in direct correlation with what value you're bringing, right? That's why a nurse earns more than a CNA because they bring more value. A doctor earns more than a nurse because they bring more value, all right? And that's why in the hierarchy of industries, finance earns more than medicine, because right in the hierarchy of value, they bring more value because money is more important to a degree, right, to people. Hence the pay packages. So I did that, but I understood, just like I did in IT. When I learned something, I want to share it with everyone else. And the crusade of no family left behind came alive to me. The video talked about the three ownership and purpose being being one of them. Sharing information is my purpose. I want to share as much information as possible, information that can change lives and change generations. So when it comes down to educating and transferring knowledge, that is my core purpose, so to speak. But I didn't know that by doing that, it was a higher value. So in 2022, my first pay year, doing this on a spare time basis, because keep in mind, Doc said you can earn active income or passive income. All right. Now, this was part-time income for me because I had 3 IT jobs. I was investing in real estate and I had other things going. But I found something I could do that could earn me more by just transferring knowledge, right? Things that can help people pave a better life, maybe prepare better for their kids and create generational wealth, so to speak, right? So a couple of things are going to happen when you listen to information like this. Doc shared about 4 types of people, but there are 2 types of decisions you're going to make after this call or as this call is going on. There are people who are going to accept their conditions as they are, which means you're not going to change anything. You're going to keep doing whatever you're doing and expect things to change by magic or miracle. I'm not saying miracles don't exist, but there are some of you who are actually going to take the responsibility for changing your life. Those are the people who are going to follow up and say, you know what, I learned something and I want to implement. Because I learned something a long time ago that success requires intention. You don't miraculously become successful, but failure requires nothing at all. All you need to do is neglect your finances, neglect your health, neglect your faith to be a failure. But if you want to be successful in anything in life, you have to be intentional about it. So I'm speaking to those of you who are intentional about changing the trajectory of your lives and changing generations to come. All right. A couple of things have to happen. You have to first of all know where you're going. That's where Doc talks a lot about vision. You have to know where you're going. That's your destination. You have to understand what you want for yourself and your family. 2026, where are we going to be as a family or as an individual by December of this year? That's your vision. Then you have to understand what it takes to get there. I call them your goals. What does it take to get there? But not just that, because you're thinking of vision and what it takes for the first time, you're most likely going to need some skills, personal development. You're going to have to educate yourself, read books, fall under the leadership of people who have been there, done that, to learn. All right. But if you do all that and you don't work on it and you don't take action, nothing changes still. Nothing changes if you do nothing. All right. But guess what? I'm not here to sugarcoat success. I'm here to tell you it's going to require some faith. Faith is believing in something before it ever happened. So you're thinking of December and you're still in March and your mind is going to say, you know what? That's not going to work. That's why you got to persevere through the process, because when you start doing something new, everything comes at you. All right. Not just that, you have to develop some mental toughness, because once you make a decision to change your life, everything comes at you. Negativity, procrastination, excuses, everything comes to you once you make that decision. So for those of you who are intentional, we have to implement this. Principles exist. And the principle of building wealth says if you bring more value, you get paid more. Right? So I want you to be that generational breaker, so to speak. That one person who's going to say, enough is enough. It's going to start from me. Because just like Doug said, you inherit nothing from, your parents, so to speak, because they probably didn't know any better. But we can't keep blaming them. We got to take responsibility. So it falls on you and I to now do things differently, right? And that is why I believe so much in mentorship. You got to surround yourself with people who have been there, done that. People with big dreams and big ambition. People who know how the system works, who have done it potentially. And that is why I'm ever grateful for mentors like Dr. Martin Kwende, that I can learn from them, who have gone ahead to pave paths that all of us are walking on, right? I strongly believe in this. The day you stop learning is the day you start failing. I'm using a more polite word over here. It actually says that it's the day you start dying. And you're either slowly succeeding or slowly failing. We're going to find out 5 years from now or 10 years from now if you're slowly succeeding or slowly failing. This platform has helped me so much. I own a medical center since 2021, and we've been doing a lot in my community. I didn't get to this realization until I started mingling with people who are speaking the language that I wanted to hear, who are inspired me to think big. Francel Medical has existed since 2021, and we've helped. I lost count of how many babies, how many surgeries, how many lives we've saved, and we are saving. That is because of this system. So you get to earn more when you do more. And I had no idea I could write a book because reading was, first of all, a problem until I started mingling with people like Dr. Martin Kwende and some of our mentors who inspire you to think out of the box. So I'm super grateful. And I believe that if you can, in 2026, add more value or extend how much value you bring to the marketplace, I believe your income is going to change drastically. So I want to appreciate you, Doc, for this opportunity. And everyone listening, please take action. I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Martin.